Bandai has been re-releasing their older generations of Tamagotchis, but with some updated shell designs. And when I saw this cafe shell design, it was over. Immediate fan. I just kept staring at this little green Cuchapachi cake, and it was game over. I was in love. I just kept thinking about it, and finally I was like, fine. I will bake myself the Cuchapachi cake, and while I'm at it, I'm gonna make the entire menu, aka all 4 items that are on the shell. It also works out because I haven't baked in a while, and I want to consider this practice before I attempt to make a full-on Kirby Cafe food video later. But that's for later. Today is all about the Tamas. Without any further ado, let me try to be a digital pet barista. First up has to be coffee, because it seems wrong to not start with coffee, so we're starting with coffee. On the shell, this just looks like a run-of-the-mill latte with some cinnamon sprinkle on top as the latte art. So we're also starting off easy. But before we can even get started, I had to send my Tamagotchis to the thrift store because I don't have a single red mug in my house. I barely have any mugs at all. And luckily they came back with a red mug, so we were all good. But thank goodness for me, and also probably for you, you cannot taste this coffee. You can only see it. So as long as it looks good, that's all that matters. I just whipped up a super quick latte with instant coffee, aka commoner's coffee. If you know, you know. I whipped up the quickest and most mid latte you have probably ever seen. I used instant coffee because that's what's in my house. But eventually, with the help of some heavy whipping cream and some powdered sugar, and I think some vanilla extract for fun, I finally got that under control. Then it was time to make my stencil. The main thing that makes this coffee Tamagotchi themed is that Mimitchi's beautiful little face is on top. I'm assuming in cinnamon or nutmeg or pumpkin spice or something like that. Some kind of finely milled powder that is edible. I'm gonna go with cinnamon. If I were to do this again, I would definitely use like an old food package or something like that, to use like a thin plastic to make this stencil rather than the cardboard that I used. My goodness, it got soggy and then it was a nightmare. Do not do this with cardboard. I've seen other people online do it with cardboard. Do not do it with cardboard. Use some kind of plastic or something. Regardless, I just did the old print, cut, trace, and cut again, and that's how I made this stencil. It took me several attempts to get it looking right, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't get the final shot because I forgot and I took a big ol' sip out of this latte before I got the final shot of the good looking one. So you will have to wait till the very end to see the best version of this. I kind of wish you could give your Tamagotchis a cup of coffee. That way they could either get up an hour earlier or stay up an hour later or something like that. I think that would be really funny. But now that we've had our coffee, I'd say it's time for a donut to pair with it. I believe this donut is meant to look like either the head of Mimitchi or Mimitchi, with that chocolate dipped ear situation, but we're gonna go with Mimitchi since Mimitchi already had his time to shine in the latte. Also, I am sure I'm not the only person to say this, but why on earth are there 3 main Tamagotchi characters who are named Mimitchi, Mimitchi, and Mimitchi? How am I supposed to understand the lore? I have been eager to try my hand at an air fryer donut recipe because, you know, I don't really know why. I probably saw them online like 5 years ago and then forgot about it. It just has been living in the back of my little Jill brain. I also thought the air fryer might help the ears keep their shape a bit better than a traditional dip in hot oil, but we shall see. I'll put the recipe that I used in the description, but honestly, I did not follow it incredibly closely because the dough was so sticky and I don't know what I did. And I also use unbleached flour and whole wheat flour, and that might have had an effect on things. At the end of the day, it still made a donut, and it was still sweet and donutty, so I can't complain. But this is just me adding a ton of stuff to my stand mixer with my dough hook on it. This stand mixer was the MVP of the day while I was doing all this baking. Thank you so much to my family for giving me this. But we'll skip past the major trial of getting the dough to the right consistency, and we'll just skip to the part where I'm shaping the dough. I went ahead and made a circular stamp, just a little impression, and then just drew on some ears with a knife and kind of cut everything out and kind of hand shaped everything. It went okay. I'm not usually one to toot my own horn super loudly, but these turned out decent. I'd give myself like a little toot, a little tiny toot. I adore baking, but I am just a bit of a kitchen klutz. I am always spilling things, knocking things over. I don't know what it is. I think that my mind is just racing and I'm just excited to eat the food. So I'm really pleased with how these turned out. I went ahead and made a couple of them shaped like Mimitchi's head just in case. Pop back to 3 seconds ago where I mentioned me being a kitchen klutz. Yeah, I did in fact mess one up a little bit, so I'm glad I made some extras. If you notice one has a wonky looking ear, I may or may not have ripped it off on accident. While those donuts are air frying, one at a time might I add because my air fryer is tiny, let's go ahead and move on to the glaze. I just whipped up an incredibly simple glaze. It was just almond milk, vanilla, and powdered sugar. I wanted it to be really thin because I didn't want any kind of major shell of glaze. I didn't want it to look like a glazed donut per se because the chocolate is supposed to be the main star of the show. So after those came out of the air fryer, I should have let them cool just a touch more. They were a little too warm still when I dipped them. But in the end, the glaze turned out just fine, even though they were a little too warm. So I set those aside in the freezer to let that glaze finish setting as much as it could before I put the chocolate on top. As for what chocolate I used for the ears, I just used some mini chocolate chips that I had hanging around on hand. I think the mini ones just melt so much easier. Obviously, they're miniature, and I just tempered them in the microwave. And just to be safe, once they were melted, I added in a few unmelted chocolate chips to act as seed chocolate, as they call it, just so it was tempered properly. And after that, it was just time to pop the chocolate on. And here is our Mimitchi donut. I think it is so cute. I even like the whole wheat flour. I think it really gave it that kind of texture that it has in the picture. I almost wonder if I should have rubbed it down with a little powdered sugar and no glaze. Regardless, it's done now, and I really love how it turned out. Next up, I want to do the cherry lemonade. That way I can save the Cuchapachi cake for last. That way you watch to the end of this video because that's really the premier item, obviously, if I'm being completely honest. I'm also thirsty after eating all those donuts because I made a bunch of mini donuts out of the extra. If we look at this one on the actual shell, it looks like lemonade with a little something extra at the bottom. It could be strawberries, it could be cherries. It's a little too vibrant to be watermelon, probably not watermelon, but I wanted that little something extra to be cherries because I love them and I love maraschino cherries. I would also like to point out that I bought some maraschino cherries just for that stupid singular little cherry next to the Cuchapachi cake. So I wanted to make use of those puppies. I wanted this to have a lot of cherry flavor, so I yoinked all the juice and a few of the cherries, and I yeeted those bad boys into my little tiny blender for the base. And I was hoping this would make it thicker so that the lemonade, which looks like just plain old regular lemonade, could sit on top. So I blended all that up, and I found that it was very difficult to get that lemonade to sit on top. In the end, I had to blend the lemonade with some ice to make it a little heavy, or not a little heavier, a little thicker, a little icier. Yeah, icier. In the end, I had to blend the lemonade with a little bit of ice to get it to stay on top and put it in extra gently, and it still mixed more than I would have liked. But listen, I'm making this for me, and it tasted good, and it's fine. You know what? The drink isn't even the star of the show. The star of the show is this little stirring stick with a little Tamagotchi on it. It's cute. Regardless, I just made a flat little clay egg. I stuck that puppy onto the chopstick, waited for it to dry very patiently, painted it red, threw on the white detail, and wha-bam! We have the Tamagotchi stirring stick! And now, this looks like the drink from the shell. Don't worry. After I was done with this, I know the top is not really waterproof. It's not really useful to keep using this in drinks all the time or safe or whatever. So I just stuck that puppy down in one of my potted plants, and now he is decor. That is the Tama cherry lemonade all finished, and this was freaking delicious. Probably because it was overpoweringly maraschino cherry, and the little shredded up maraschino cherry bits in the bottom, because I just blitzed it, I didn't fully blend it. They kept coming up the straw and they were delicious. It was so good. I loved it. I'm gonna make this again. And next is the star of the show, the green cake, Cuchapachi himself, sent down from Tamagotchi heaven. Probably because I have killed him so many times on my own Tamagotchi. He is my favorite, the cutest and best Tamagotchi. I love you, Cuchapachi. This is my ode to Cuchapachi, this green cake with his face on it that I will in fact devour in the end. Now, this is a naked cake in the picture here, and it looks like it has some chocolate ganache as its filling, which is great because I love chocolate ganache. But the fact that it's a naked cake means the batter needed to be, green. And I don't know, I tried a pistachio cake and that didn't look right at all. I couldn't get it green enough and the texture was all wrong. And I'm not a big fan of matcha. I know, boo, boo, I hate me too. And as an inexperienced matcha person, I didn't even know if like chocolate and matcha went together well, or is that like heresy? I don't know. In the end, I just went with a buttery yellow cake because yellow cake and chocolate icing go together super well, and yellow cake is really underrated. I love it. And yeah, I used food dye to make it green. I wanted to use like a natural powder or something, but the one that I ordered in the mail got canceled and the show had to go on. Cuchapachi needed to be cakeified. Honestly, it's kind of perfect that Cuchapachi is the cake because the boy is pretty caked up. I don't know, is that like inappropriate for me to say? So I used my box mix and I was trying to get the perfect shade of Cuchapachi green and I really think I nailed it. I think starting with a yellow cake base really helped. He's got a lot of yellowy, chartreusey, yellow and kind of chartreuse undertones. So I think that really helped. So I think I did overmix this batter a little bit because I had to keep adding more green because I really underestimated the power of this food coloring. I never use food coloring, so I was like, ah yes, it is a dye. A little drop shall taint the entire batter. Mwah! And then it was like a whisper of green and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta put more in. But in the end, we got there. In the end, we greened it up, looking a little bit like Shrek, but I like it. So after those cakes were all shaped and ready to go and split into 2 little mini tiers, I thought this looked like a personal sized cake, you know, or maybe like a cake for 2, like you order it for you and your significant other when you go out to the Tamagotchi Cafe to wine and dine each other. So I wanted to make a mini cake. Mini cakes are also easier. And I can't eat that much cake, okay? I got a lot of donuts laying around, so I had to chill. Also, Cuchapachi is small. How is he gonna live in that little egg if he's not small? I filled this with store-bought ganache, and I know, or store-bought chocolate frosting. It's not really ganache, but it's kind of got that thick texture to it, which is really the main thing that I was looking for. I wanted that filling to be thick in the middle, to be chunky, because it's very defined in the picture. And then I just popped on the top of the cake. And then here comes the high stakes part. So I have my reusable piping bag here and my chocolate is quite warm inside, but not like too warm. I have really like very thin baby skin on my hands and I was holding it just fine. But it is tempered chocolate. It's the same chocolate that I used for the Mimitchi donut. So I had to work fast. So I propped up my reference photo of the cake and I mean, it's 2 dots and 2 smushed ovals, kind of like a hot dog bun. And that was it. You know, it was actually easy peasy and it was tempered really well. It actually snapped when I cut into it. I did forget to get something for his little cheekies, which it wounds me deeply, but we will just have to eat his face minus the little blushy cheekies. I apologize, Cuchapachi. You were delicious. After I slapped his face on, I just put down a little puff of whipped cream and then one of those maraschino cherries that I bought an entire jar of maraschino cherries just for this. And look at it. I put a fork across the plate just like on the picture. Look at it. Look at it. It's adorable. It is too cute to eat. Just kidding. I totally ate it. It looks like the picture. I love how everything turned out. And here is everything all finished, all lined up as aesthetically pleasingly as I could get it. I added in my Cuchapachi plush for a little extra oomph. The cake is absolutely my favorite looking thing, but I don't know, I think the cherry lemonade tasted the best. I could have this on the daily and be very happy, but everything turned out pretty darn good. My kitchen was a wreck after this, and there you have it. That's the entire Tamagotchi Cafe menu as far as this shell is concerned, brought to life. I love it. My inner 9-year-old was screaming the entire time I was making this. I would have loved this as a child. Thanks for watching, subscribe and all that junk if you feel like it, and bye!